is Dr. Nathan Groot. I am a music instructor at the Arkansas School for Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts, where I teach string ensemble, applied string lessons, and other music courses. Today we're going to be taking a look at the excerpt from Farandole, and this is a part of the concert orchestra audition packet for the North region of the state. You will find this in your All for Strings Book 3 on page 16. Now, typically I will make two separate videos, one for viola, one for violin. However, this piece is the exact same, so you'll see me demonstrating things on the viola, but I'm playing the same notes. Whenever I put up an example on the screen, I'm going to put up two examples that show the alto clef viola version and the treble clef violin version, just so you don't have to switch between clefs. But violists and violinists, this will work for both of you because you have the exact same pitches, same rhythms, same everything in this excerpt. Alright, so when we approach a new excerpt, first things we want to look at are the key signature and time signature. So what key are we in? We have 3 flats, so that means we could be maybe in E flat major or C minor. Just looking at the notes we have, it's probably going to be C minor. The important thing is that we make sure to remember that all B's are flat, all E's are flat, and all A's are flat. So B flat, E flat, and A flat. I'm going to demonstrate this on both viola and violin, so bear with me, okay? So in the key of C minor, these 3 flats, let's talk about our finger patterns, okay? So for viola, on the C string, that means we're going to have a low E, so a E flat, that's a 1-2 finger pattern. On the G string, it means we're going to have an open finger pattern because that A flat is low, right? On the D string, we're going to have a 3-4 finger pattern, a low 1, and then a low 4 touching the 3, that G to A flat half step. On the A string, be sure not to play any open A's. That's going to be another 3-4 finger pattern, a low B flat, low 1, and then our 4th finger touching our 3rd finger. So just to review, on viola, 1-2 finger pattern on C string, open finger pattern on G string, 3-4 finger pattern on D string, 3-4 finger pattern on the A string. Okay, now what about violin? Okay, so we have an open finger pattern on our G string. That's that low A flat, brings that 1st finger down. We have A flat, B flat, C, D, right? On the D string, we have our 3-4 finger pattern, right? So that A flat touches the G, and then our 1st finger is the low E flat. On our A string, it's another 3-4 finger pattern, right? So we have our E flat touching our D, and then a low B flat there, a low 1. Remember, you can't play an open A string anywhere because the A's are flat. And then on our E string, which I don't believe we get to, no, we don't get to our E string, but if you did, you would play a 2-3 finger pattern because that low A flat. All right, let's talk about time signature. We have a C here. This is common time 4/4. So there are 4 quarter notes in each measure. You may be thinking, wait a second, there are only 2 quarter notes in the first measure, and that's true. This is an incomplete measure at the beginning. If you notice, the very last measure of the piece also only has 2 beats. So that means when I'm counting it off, which I'll do later in the video when we go up different tempos, I will count 1, 2, and then we'll start on beat 3. So the beginning starts off like this. 3, 4, right? So it's going to start on beat 3 with that C. So let's talk about the scope of this piece as a whole. You'll see here on the 2nd line, in the middle of the 2nd line, we have something interesting going on, where in that 3rd measure, it says to skip over and go to measure 9. We continue on, we skip over that C half note that says fine on it, we'll just hop over it, and then go to the 3rd line, go all the way to the end of the 3rd line, and we have a DC, a da capo. So we go back up to the very top, we play through the top, And then when we get to the second line, measure 7, we're just going to skip over that measure that says 2-9 and hop over to the fine, okay? So we play the first line twice, right? In that second line, we just have to do a little hopping over measures. So just make sure you're really clear on how that works, okay? I think maybe just listening to the recording might help clarify things, but just to explain it, this is how that is working. So what are some of the main ideas in this piece? 1, rhythm. 2, articulation. These are the things that the teachers or adjudicators who listen to you audition are going to be listening for in particular. In addition to playing all the right notes, being in C minor, playing, E flats, A flats, B flats, playing all of those right, of course. But rhythm and articulation are the things that are going to set your audition apart from potentially other people auditioning. So, articulation. What are we talking about here? What kind of articulations do we have? We just have one type of articulation, and that is a staccato. So we're going to want these notes to have space after them. We want them to be nice and short. And we want to differentiate between the notes that have a staccato and the notes that do not have a staccato, right? When you are playing these staccatos, it can be easy to accidentally sort of glide on top of the string. We really want the initiation of that stroke to be very, very clean. I want to introduce kind of an advanced topic for you. This is something that a lot of people don't hear about until late high school, sometimes college. That's where I heard about it, was college. But it's this idea of pulling and pushing the string. So the original French words for down bow and up bow really meant to pull and to push. So when we're doing a down bow, we're actually pulling the string, and when we're playing an up bow, we're pushing the string. So if you want to get a really clean articulation on these, I'm thinking about pulling from this side of the string, and if you're playing violin, it's going to be this string, right? But it works the same way. So you're pulling from this side of the string, and then when I play up bow, I'm pushing from this side. So there's a very, very tiny little movement that I'm doing here to get a really clean initiation of that stroke, okay? With a staccato, that's what we really want. We want the beginning of the note to be like a hard consonant, ka, ka, instead of fa, fa, or something. We want it to be nice and clean. And then what happens after that is it kind of decays, and we can add some space. We can stop the bow so that there's space after that staccato, okay? Now the other part, in addition to pulling and pushing that string, is feeling the weight of your arm really sinking into the string. A good exercise for this, let's see if I can get close enough for you to see, is to wiggle the string just a little bit. Try this on each one of your strings. Try wiggling the string, seeing if you can wiggle it, and try wiggling before each stroke. So wiggle, wiggle. And the important thing here is to not press the string or like suppress it from vibrating, but just feeling a release. So, in pushing and pulling the string, think horizontally. But this beginning pinch involves a little bit of downward force, okay? Remember, we're using the weight of our arm to transfer through the bow and into the string. So you don't want to be pressing just with your index finger or anything. You just want the weight of your arm to be transferred in. And then that, plus the pulling and pushing, this horizontal motion thing, will help you get a really amazing sound and a clean sound on these articulations. Okay, rhythm. This is really, really important. We have quarter notes, we have dotted quarter notes, we have eighth notes, we have dotted eighth notes, we have 16th notes, Making sense of all of these is going to be crucially important here, especially the dotted eighth note and 16th note rhythm. These have a tendency to turn into triplets. The reason is because we do not hold the dotted eighth note quite long enough. So I want you to think about subdividing 16th notes, okay? So I set my metronome on 60, 1, 2, but you can hear 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. This is subdividing all of our 16th notes for us, okay? So I'm going to start playing from the beginning, and just be thinking in your head, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, as I play, okay? 1 E and a, 2 E and a. So the second half of the first full measure, we want to make sure that this isn't, but is, that you're thinking about the 16th notes that are contained within that dotted eighth note. There are 3 16th notes contained within that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, da, 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 da. So making sure that that rhythm is perfectly accurate. It's hard to do, especially when the tempo gets faster, but make sure it's really, really set at this slower tempo. Whenever I'm playing this rhythm, I am subdividing my head. Bum, 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 ba da 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 da. So thinking about those 16th notes underlying every time you play that rhythm. If you want to really set the subdivision straight, you can play all the underlying 16th notes. So I'm just going to have my bow playing 16th notes, but my left hand is going to play exactly what it would normally play. Bowings are out the window, but this will give us an idea of where all those underlying 16th notes are. So 1 E and a, 2 E and a. Now, there's also an issue with the bow here. It's a hooked bowing. Down, down, up, up, down, right? So with this bowing, we need to make sure that we are grabbing the string and having a really clean articulation on this as well. So da 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 da, making sure that this is really clean. This is a spot to isolate and just, you know, really make sure is really clear, because this little spot is what's going to separate auditions for sure. I would recommend staying somewhere around the balance point of the bow, right? So we have the upper half, the lower half, the middle, the tip, the frog. Balance point is going to be somewhere around here, so not quite the middle, not quite the frog, right? So this is a really springy, great place to be, especially for some of these hooked bowings, because we really want the best responsiveness we can get out of our instrument in those moments. Another thing that will set your audition apart is really careful observance of dynamics. So we start out forte. How do we really achieve these dynamics? We have our bow here. I like to think about 3 main things. Weight, so how much weight is being transferred from our arm through the bow and into the string. We have speed, how much speed we are using. Faster is usually louder, although we want to be careful about that here because that can interfere with other things. And then there's also contact point. So contact point is where you are in relation to the fingerboard versus the bridge. So with contact point, with contact point being closer to the bridge, not on top of the bridge, but closer to the bridge, will give you a more intense sound and usually a louder volume. If you're closer to the fingerboard, you're going to get a slightly different timbre and a slightly softer volume, okay? So you're going to want to start this excerpt out nice and loud. Give them your biggest either viola or violin sound. Give them a really meaty sound. Continue that through until you get to the mezzo forte at the end of the second line. So you're going to just bring that down just a little bit from loud to medium loud. Then, when you get to measure 12, you're going to bring that down another step from mezzo forte to mezzo piano. So down to sort of a medium soft. Then you have this nice swell at the end of the third line. You're going to get loud and then come back down. That coming back down is really important because there's a da capo, you're going to go from that back to forte. So make sure that you're coming down quite a bit in that decrescendo, which will give your da capo an even more dramatic contrast in your dynamics. With dynamics, we want to do a little bit more than you think is necessary. Go right up to that line of good taste, okay? Because, so whatever we're doing under our chin here, whatever we're hearing, the people who are listening, who are maybe 6 feet, maybe 10 feet away from us, are only hearing a fraction of that. So we have to do sort of way more dramatic versions of what we think might be necessary for them to hear that dynamic contrast. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're just going to play it through. For violinists, I will be playing it through on my viola, but just remember, even though it might look a little different, it'll look like I'm a string too high, it's the same notes, so you can still play along. Remember, though, that there are a lot of different ways to practice. Don't get stuck just thinking that you can only practice, 60, 70, 80, 90, the way I'm going to do. Isolate spots, listen carefully, problem solve, and work on it that way. Record yourself. But this can be a good way to maybe just check each tempo to see if things are lining up the way you want. All right, so let's get started. 1, 2. hope that you found this video somewhat helpful. If I missed anything, which is very possible, please let me know if you have any additional questions. I would be happy to try my best to answer those. Feel free to leave a comment or reach out in another way. I'd be happy to talk to you more about this excerpt. Otherwise, I wish you the very best of luck in your upcoming audition, and as always, happy practicing.